Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, this is a bit different to that one. When I say different, it's like this one affects all of us, all the way through our lives, from start to finish. This thought today, what I'm going to share, it's only a thought, but it's my rendition of what I've been going through in the last 6 to 10 months. But this rendition, I needed something to anchor it to. And the only anchor I found which was stable enough was in the Bible. Now, the subject today is events and circumstances. Now, events and circumstances, there's a million and million events and a million circumstances what we can all be affected by. Now, that when I say affected by, some circumstances are very good. Some events are very good. Others, on the other hand, are bad. Sometimes we will turn around and say, I wasn't expecting that. Or I never saw that coming. Or due to unforeseen circumstances, you have to alter your path. Now, events and circumstances, I've looked for events and circumstances in the Bible. The word event comes up hundreds of times. But circumstance does not come up once. Now, because it doesn't come up once, I've took it upon myself to find out what the Collins Concise Dictionary says circumstances are. And this is just a brief before I start talking. This is what I'm going to say. Right, circumstance. External conditions that affect or might affect an action. It could be a manner, a cause, occasion, or surroundings of an act or event. Now, that's what the dictionary says, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to do a reading first. Now, my first reading is 1 Samuel. Right now, 1 Samuel, if I can just get to it, there it is. 1 Samuel, chapter 17. Now, I'm going to read from verse 39. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he attempted to go, but he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proven them. And David put them off him. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David. And the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and a spear, and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the horse of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, and that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth, not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slung it and smote the Philistine in the forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Now, the reason why I've chose that, the reason why I chose that one is because the circumstances why David was there, he was taking his brother's food because they were going to fight in the battle. He didn't go to fight the battle. He was carrying sandwiches and drinks. And he took it to his brothers. The event, right? The event was, David killing the giant. Now that event and that circumstances, when David was minding the sheep on the morning, he didn't say, I'm going to kill a giant today. He never said that. He said, I hope my sheep are all right. And someone said, you need to take your brother some sandwiches. Get yourself sorted and go and take them some sandwiches and cheese. Go over there now. They're going to war and they need to be fed. So David didn't think he was going to kill a giant. He had no idea. It just event and circumstances put David on a path which led him to being a king. That was one example. I have another one. Right, excuse me, please. Genesis chapter 7. Genesis chapter 7, verses 10, starting at verse 10. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird after every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. Now, I don't think for 1 minute that Noah ever woke up and said, even though I live in the desert, I'm going to build the biggest boat this world has ever seen. I don't think he ever said that. The events and circumstances which happened was nothing to do with Noah. It was all God's plan to destroy the evil which had accumulated throughout the world, and God said, I'm not having it anymore. I'm going to destroy the lot. But Noah found grace in God's eye. But Noah didn't wake up there. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 120 years to build the biggest boat the world has ever seen. He didn't say that. God said, I want you to do that. And start as soon as you can. You're on the clock. Because everything was set in motion thousands of years before. Because God knew the beginning from the end. So, like I say, in all of our lives, we have events and circumstances which we don't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to plan to have no food next month. I'm going to plan to have no money. I'm going to plan to get fired. I'm going to plan this and I'm going to plan that, because you don't plan those things. Those things, they just happen. And you have to live with it. You have to circumnavigate those circumstances, because you have no control over the events in your life. You think you do. But who wakes up and says, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes today? Nobody. They happen anyway. The last one, this is in Exodus chapter 2. I'm laughing because I like this one. The title is Moses Runs Away. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together, and he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me, as thou killedest the Egyptian? And Moses feared, and said, Surely this thing is known. Now, when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now, Moses killed someone. He knew he'd done the wrong thing. He thought he got away with it, so he buried the dead man in the sand. He thought, that's all, nobody saw me. The 2 men saw him, and because he'd been rumbled, he ran away. And those men reported him to Pharaoh, and now Moses was, he was a wanted man for murder, and he was going to be killed by Pharaoh. So Moses done a runner. Now, I don't think for 1 minute Moses woke up and thought, I'm going to kill someone today. He wouldn't have done it. He was protecting someone. He was protecting another man. Somebody was beating him, and he killed the guy who was beating up his friend or a brethren. But he hoped that nobody saw him. So events and circumstances, if nobody had seen him, if he got away with it, what would have happened to Moses? Where would the story go? But because he was seen, God didn't stop him killing someone. He made sure there was a witness, 2 witnesses. He made sure there was a witness. So the events and circumstances surrounding Moses the next 100 years happened on that day. In that few minutes when he killed that guy, the future of Moses was written. It was set. And Moses couldn't do anything about it. He was trying to avoid being killed by Pharaoh. So those are just a few examples of events and circumstances where you don't wake up and plan to have a bad day. It just happens. And when you have the bad day, it makes you change in your direction. Or you get a good job and you think it's great, but then it turns out to be terrible. So you have to get another job. And then you get fired. So you have to nobody plans that. But in your life, it's usually, the old saying goes, 3 steps forward and 2 back. I would like to change that to 4 steps forward and 3 back. But over the many, many years, your 4 steps forward and 3 back have happened, you've actually moved 1 step forward. So all them years, that 1 step forward takes you from where you were to where you are. And we've all ended up here. a thousand paths, a thousand roads, millions of miles you might have travelled, but we're all here. Because that one step forward was the right one. The other three, it doesn't matter. It's just peripheral steps, what you do during your life, where you start and where you finish. It's not up to you. Thank you.